In this video, we provide an overview of DB2 databases. A database is a collection of objects such as tables, views, indices, and so on. DB2 databases are independent units and therefore do not share objects with other databases. Let's take a look first at the instances that I have from a DB2 command window or Linux shell I issue, DB2 ilist, and it shows me the instances myints and DB2. Next, let's see which instance is the active one. For this window, by issuing DB2 get instance, this shows DB2 as the active instance to create a database called mydb1 in instance DB2. Issued this command db2 create db mydb1 and press enter. When a database is created, there are several objects created by default such as table spaces, table, and so on. DB2 also performs the create database command requires a few minutes for processing. To list all the databases created in this instance DB2, run the command db2 list db2 directory and press enter. As you can see, there are several databases listed. In DB2, you can create many databases within an instance. But in the instance myints as follows. First, we use setDB instance equals myints to make the myints instance active in this window, and we press enter. Then we can issue db2 create db mydb1 to create the instance mydb1. But first, it gives me an error because the instance mydb1 was not started. So first, I have to issue the db2 start command to start the myints instance. Then before creating another database, mydb1, I'm going to show which databases I have in this instance by issuing a db2 list db directory command again. In this case, this instance has no databases. So now let's create a database mydb1 in the instance myints1. This chart illustrates that we have created so far. Note that we use the same name mydb1 for the two databases in the two different instances. Since instances are independent units, there is no conflict with the names. The next chart shows three table spaces created by default when you create a database. Sys caps temps user space 1. Table spaces are discussed in more detail on other video. For now, you can think of a table space as a logical layer between logical table and physical resources such as disk and memory. Next, in this chart, we show two other objects created by default. A buffer pool called IBM default TBB and the log files. A buffer pool is basically a memory cache used by the database. You can create one or more buffer pools, but there should always be one buffer pool with a page size that matches page size of existing table space. Page and page size are discussed in more detail on other videos. The log files are used for recovery. When you work on a database, not only is information stored in the disk for the database, but while you are working on the database, log files store all the operations executed on the data. Think of Logs are discussed in more detail on other videos. In this other chart, we showed that database MyDB1 in instance myInst will have the same default objects created when the database was created. Earlier, we explained that instances are independent environments, and therefore, a database with the same name could be created. In several instances, just like instances, databases are also independent units. Therefore, objects in one database have no relationship to objects in another database. In this next chart, shows a table space my tables inside both the MyDB1 database and the sample database within instance DB2. This is valid because the databases are independent units. So we can use the same name myTables1 in both databases. Note that in this chart, we don't show the other default objects of database sample due to space constraint in the figure.